Hi there. On May 4th, I had a series of 4 dreams that I would like to share with you. The first dream, I was on a street called Kings Mountain Street. I had bought a house, and it was not to live in, it was for a business. That was my perception in the dream, that it was for a business. But I didn't know what kind of business. And I was out in the yard, and I saw a man and a woman was in the yard of this property that I had purchased, and they were sitting on concrete pillars. I think they represent leadership of the church. And I believe the building, the house that I bought, I believe that it represents the church, but you can see what you think about that. I went into this building to see what needed to be done to it, and I walked through it. When I walked through it, it looked pretty good, and I went into the whole front of this. It was a house, but on the inside it didn't look like a house. It was the whole front of the house was just one giant room with nothing in it, just one big room. And then you walk into the back of it, and there was like a little foyer area, and there was more rooms in the back. And when I went into the house alone, but when I went into the back of it, there were some ladies there in the back, and they were very helpful, and they wanted to hang beautiful cloth on the walls to make it pretty. But I could see that the walls desperately needed work. And I told the ladies, I said, not yet, we can't just cover up these walls. These walls need repair. And then I walked back out into the main part of this building, and as I was walking back through it, I could see that the condition of it looked a whole lot worse than it did. I didn't see all this when I first went in, but it had a dirt floor. The walls of the building, I could see, it was boards, but it was spaces between the boards. I could literally see through the walls to the outside. And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't see all this. It's going to need so much work. And I was just concerned, is there going to be enough money to take care of all this work? And I got to the front door, and there was a rich man. He was a rich businessman at the front door, and it reminded me of J.R. Ewing. He looked like a Texas oil man. He had a hat on his head, and I knew that this man either lived or had a business across the street from me. And when I was standing at the door with him, he said, tell your workers, if they do a good job for you, there's plenty of work. I have plenty of work for them. He told me, he said, I know a lot of people, and if they do a good job for you, and he said something about the roof. He said, when they put your roof on, I'm going to be watching them. And if they do a good job, I have plenty of work for them. And then I just remember thinking, oh my gosh, it needs a roof too. But anyway, so that was the end of that dream. But one thing that I forgot to mention, the man and the woman that was sitting on the pillars in the front yard of my property, I went over to talk to them, and they told me that they owned a flower shop down the road. And I perceived that they were sitting in my yard watching me because they were threatened. They just wanted to be sure that I was not opening up a flower shop right down the road from them. And I assured them that, I told them that this is going to be a business. I don't know what kind yet, but it's not going to be a flower shop. And that was it. That dream ended. And then I dreamed that there was this little boy I was ministering to. He was afraid of death. And I was telling him that if he was sure of his salvation, if he was sure of where he was going when he died, that there was no reason to be afraid. And that the reason that he was afraid was because he wasn't sure, and because he didn't trust, his trust was not in the Lord to take care of him beyond life, in life and beyond life. And when I was ministering, this little girl came up to him actually, and started trying to talk over me. She was really being rude, and it was like she was acting as though she had a higher revelation and higher knowledge of God than I had. but I wanted to say what I was going to say to this little boy, so I didn't let her interrupt me. But I was very much interested in what she had to say. And I thought maybe she does have a greater revelation. Maybe she does know things I don't know. So I was very much interested in what she had to say. So when I finished talking with the boy, then I turned to her and I asked her, okay, tell me what you were wanting to say. And she didn't, but she took a book that she had written, and she was wanting me to read this page right here. And I was trying to read it, but I couldn't comprehend it. And it was like there was so much confusion in the room, and my thoughts, confusion about, what is all this? What's going on? That I couldn't comprehend it. And the little girl wanted me to take a bag of her books and pass out to people. But before that, I was standing there, and I couldn't comprehend the revelations in the book. And so I took them out of the book as though they were sticks. I know this is weird, but I took the revelations out of the book as though they were sticks. I broke the sticks in half and I handed them to somebody. And it was almost as if, I don't know if these are true or not, if they stand, they stand, and if they fall, they fall. And somehow by me breaking them, I was testing them. I was testing her prophecy. I'm not really sure, but that's the way I perceived it. And so I took her bag of books, and I told her that I would not pass those out until I had read those books, until I had read that book myself first. But if I believed that truth was in the book, that I would pass the books out for her. And that dream ended. I do believe that, I believe that the first dream is talking about the condition of the church, and just kind of whitewashing it. People just want to whitewash it and cover it up instead of repair. And there's different things in that dream, I think, that's pretty obvious. And then I think that the second one here is speaking of, false prophecy and discernment, and taking time to discern, what people say. And we know that there's been a great release of deception in these last days, the same as God is releasing truth. So we have to be able to discern. We have to rely on the Holy Spirit and be able to discern. And God reminds us of that constantly, because the deception is greater, but the release of truth is also greater than ever before. So the third dream, it was very short. I was underneath a big tree, and the tree was like an oak, because it was the way it was really spread out far. And there was a table beneath the tree, and I was serving food to my family. It wasn't really my family, it was just a bunch of people. But in my dream, they were my family. And all of a sudden, we were at the bottom of a hill too. There was a tree at the bottom of a huge hill. And all of a sudden, while I was serving my family, I was going back and forth and making sure everybody had everything they needed. All of a sudden, over that hill, thousands of people started running over the hill and down the hill toward that table. And those people were starved to death. I mean, they were starved. And they were running toward that table, and it scared me because I was afraid that they were going to crush my family. And I was just running across in front of them, thinking, oh my, how do I stop them? And I even thought in the dream, I thought if I had a gun, I would fire the gun into the air to scare them, to stop the stampede, because they were stampeding. Probably wouldn't have helped, but they were stampeding the table. And I believe that speaks in these last days, the outpouring of the Holy Spirit, that hungry people are going to run to truth. They're going to run to the churches, to the groups of people who are given the truth of God. And because horrible times are coming, I talk about that a good bit. But also revival is coming, an awakening is coming, a visitation of the Lord is coming, and the people of this world are going to run to the table. So be ready for that. This is the fourth and the final dream in this dream series. I was a child, and I was on a tricycle, and me and some other children who were also on tricycles, we were riding down a hill, playing. And then we did this for a while, and then it was time to go home. And so we were leaving that area where the grassy hill was. We was going across an asphalt parking lot, and all of a sudden it went dark. Just pitch black. I could not see a thing. And so I just stopped on my tricycle right there. And immediately I thought, this is an end time event. And I thought, I know in the Bible it says, 3 days of darkness. But in the dream I thought 30 minutes of darkness. And I thought it's only going to be dark for 30 minutes. And God's in control and everything's okay. I'm just going to sit here on my tricycle and wait on it to become light again. But then I started being afraid. I wasn't afraid, but then I started being afraid because I was thinking about what's going to happen when it becomes light again. Is there going to be chaos in the world? Is there going to be earthquakes? What's going to happen? And so thinking about that, I became very afraid. And I was a little kid, right? And I don't even smoke as an adult, but I started smoking a cigarette sitting there on my tricycle. And I was just so afraid of what was going to happen when the light came back on. And then all of a sudden, off to my left, there was a man, he had a bald head. He lit a light right in front of his face. I don't know if it was a lighter or a match or what, but he lit a light right in front of his face, so it was pitch black everywhere. All I could see was this man's face. He had a bald head, and he had a crazy eye. One of his eyes was protruding, and it was large, and it looked cartoonish. His eye did. And that was it. I woke up. I saw his face and his crazy eye, and I woke up. And I'm just I'll be honest, I'm not sure about this vision. I'm really not sure of the interpretation of it, except I know that the church and the world is just, going along about their business and not paying any attention. And I know that people are going to be really caught off guard in these last days, and there is going to be a lot of fear. And as far as the crazy eye, I'm not sure. I've had other dreams and visions about eyes peeping, eyes looking. I've had other dreams about a crazy eye. And actually an eye popping out of a man's head and coming to me and looking at me close and then going back into his head. But anyway, I'm sure I'll share that dream with you soon. But if anybody has anything, any revelations on these dreams, I'd like to hear it. Thank you. Bye-bye.